New router with real-time video thumbnails. View your router sources on a built-in LCD. Plus, create your own router size. You decide the number of video inputs and outputs. The new Avenue router from Ensemble Designs.
Hi, I'm Mike Grotticelli with Broadcast Engineering Magazine and Broadcast Engineering Online. I'm here today with Lucas Wilson, Director of Business Development for Reality Digital. This is a company that's really been at the forefront of 3D production and really educating the market. Welcome, Lucas.
Thanks, glad to be here.
I want to start by, we spoke to you guys last year and talked about how the 3D was really nascent and coming up. What's happened in the last year, do you think, as far as development?
Oh, a lot has happened. What I like to see is that I split up the 3D market into a couple of distinct pieces. There's obviously the features market, episodic market, dramatic content, and the broadcast market.
Right.
The features market, I believe, is done, for lack of a better word. The business models are there, everything's coming out in 3D, and probably the nicest thing for me to see is that when you look at the billboards for 3D movies,
right,
the real D banners are getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yes.
Which means that 3D is just becoming more and more prominent, which means that people are evaluating content again instead of evaluating gee whiz, which I think is nothing but good.
Good.
On the broadcast side, it's still been a slow uptake, and that's part of why we have such a big presence at NAB is we've introduced a bunch of technologies that I believe address some of the critical problems in broadcast and will hopefully bring on an onslaught of 3D.
Yeah, and I was going to get to that actually. It's funny that you guys started out talking about the camera and the rigs. Now you've gone beyond that and talked about the workflow. Talk a little bit about that. What are the kind of the pieces that are needed and how you're solving them?
Sure. Well, Reality Digital is a systems company. We're a technology company that provides a bunch of different technologies to enable production of stereoscopic content. People are very familiar with us as a rig company, but part of my mission in life is to come to NAB and burn that phrase out of people's minds. We're a systems company, and rigs are just a very prominent manifestation of that system. So, for instance, people think that if you think about a 2D video camera, for instance, you have an imaging sensor, and then you have really a computer behind that imaging sensor that's responsible for taking the light that hits that sensor and transmitting it to a usable image out the back end. With 3D, people think that you build a rig and you just strap a couple of cameras to a good piece of rigid metal and you align it really carefully, and there you go, it's 3D. And people forget, there needs to be that computer on the back end to analyze the geometry and to really make good 3D and consistent 3D, because if you align that rig, as soon as you move that rig or pan it in another direction, the rig may still be aligned, but the geometry of what you're looking at is completely different. And what we have that's unique is a system on the back end that provides a constant feedback mechanism to the rigs so that the geometry stays consistent, not on just one frame, but on every frame.
Are you thinking that as an automatic process, or is it some guy's got to man that kind of system?
I'm glad you asked. We have actually, I don't need to go into great detail in all of them, but we have 5 products that we're announcing at NAB. If you think of Microsoft Office Word, we have Reality Digital, 3Space, IntelliCal, IntelliCam, IntelliMotion, IntelliScene, and IntelliMapped. Okay? The IntelliCal and the IntelliCam portions are the automatic thing that you talked about. It is our belief that one of the main reasons that broadcast is so expensive, that you don't see more 3D broadcast, is because it's really expensive.
You mean the production part?
Yeah. Only the tentpole shows are coming out in 3D, like the Super Bowl, NBA All-Stars, Masters, because only the tentpole shows have the money to be able to afford the extra crew and the extra technology.
And the mass appeal of viewers.
And and if you want to shoot SEC football, if you go to Tuscaloosa to shoot the Crimson Tide, you're going to get the crew that's in Tuscaloosa. You're not going to get 9 convergence operators for whatever, right?
Exactly.
So with IntelliCal and IntelliCam, we've addressed 2 critical components that allows those specialist 3D operators to come off the field and not be part of the budget. The Reality Digital 3Space IntelliCal product solves one of those critical problems for broadcasters that IntelliCal does an automatic alignment and calibration of lenses, rigs, and cameras. So the process right now is that a very specialized technician has to be at the rig and spend usually half an hour to 45 minutes building lens profiles, doing very specialized work to calibrate and align that rig. Right now, the process with IntelliCal, and we're showing this at our booth, is that you set up the cameras. As long as the operator can do the physical build of the rig, they do the physical build, mount the cameras and lenses to the rig. They tell the truck, okay, it's mounted. The guy in the truck pushes a button. The camera robotically and automatically goes through the lens profiles, goes through the rig profiles, aligns the rigs, and in zoom with dual zoom lenses, in about 5 minutes, the rig is profiled, aligned, and ready to go. Truck says, okay, you're ready. Camera operator steps back up, and they're ready to go.
Wow.
Okay.
At the show, we're seeing a number of cameras that are integrated lenses. They got one piece, another camcorders. Is that going to kind of help the process of production, would you say? And how does that fit into what your model is of kind of this software suite?
You know, those new single body 3D cameras,
right?
I actually think they're great. I think that the fact that Sony and Panasonic and Canon and JVC and all the big companies are getting into those 3D cameras, it does nothing but help the market.
Okay.
And there's going to be a Darwinian process. 3D is very much the wild, wild west right now, right?
Sure.
And there's going to be a Darwinian process of weeding out of some of those technologies. But the fact that the big Japanese companies have really gotten into the market and thrown obviously their full weight behind 3D does nothing but good things for Reality Digital.
Okay.
You know, those cameras, I think that the technical challenges of shooting parallel cameras, no matter how small the interaxial is, the technical challenges of shooting single body cameras are pretty obvious to anybody who's done a lot of stereo production. There's some things you can do, there's some things that look great, some things don't look so good.
Right.
Like any other camera, it's a tool, and you use it for what it's good for.
Gotcha.
But I think that the fact that you go to the Sony booth and you go to the Panasonic booth and you see so much 3D only bodes well for the market.
Great. Speaking of the Wild Wild West, there's a lot of crews that need training. There's people that really don't know how to shoot 3D, whatnot. And I'm wondering, you know, as part of your kind of services that you offer, do you offer consultancy, or we'll show you how to shoot a 3D production?
Absolutely. I believe that any company who's in the business of 3D right now that calls 3D their primary MO, if education is not part of your primary initiative, you're doing something wrong.
Right.
Because there's so much bad 3D out there right now.
Right.
Everybody wants to do 3D, but it's not just, oh, I'm a 3D guy now, right? A lot of people are putting stereographer on their card just because all the cool kids are doing it, right? You know, but we have a program called 3D IQ.
Okay.
That is a specific training program. We have a training director. We have a training staff that actually works with our customers and works with different productions to train them on 3D and how to shoot S3D. And also we're in the process right now of setting up brick and mortar operations in several of the major markets to establish key S3D training centers. So the short answer is yes, training is a big part of our initiative, and we know how important it is.
You touched on my question. You know, if I'm a camera guy, let's say, and I want to get into 3D, where are the places I can go to find out how to get into it, so to speak?
Right now,
I guess your website is where I'd start.
Well, a website is a good place to start, but I would say that you should wait a month or two, and you'll see some online initiatives from us. You'll see some brick and mortar locations popping up. But for right now, there are several good places online that you can go to learn about 3D. And pretty much every company that's in 3D right now, all the systems companies and rig companies, most of them are really nice guys. And if you call them and ask, they'll try and help you out.
Great. I've been involved in the HD transition, which took 15, even 20 years, some people would say.
It's transitioned? It's done?
Yeah. Well, we're still getting there. And I'm wondering, in your experience, you've been in the business a while as well, is 3D progressing the way you think it should, and perhaps, you know, at a fast enough rate that people won't get kind of tired or callous to it, so to speak, and it won't be successful?
You know, there's been a lot of talk of comparing SD to HD with now HD to 3D.
Right.
I actually think that the HD to 3D, there are certainly some parallels, mostly in the fact that all the people generating content are wanting a new technology for the same price.
Right.
That's the main similarity.
Right.
But I think it's actually easier, because going from SD to HD, there was a complete infrastructure change. I mean, everything had to change. You know, routers, switchers, sync generators, satellite. I mean, everything had to change in the SD to HD transition.
Right.
Going HD to 3D, nothing really has to change right now. Side-by-side transmission, which is really the common transmission method now, is HD transmission. It's a 2D line. The 3D frame is on a single HD frame.
Right.
So if I'm the broadcaster, I'm looking at it going, it fits on my 2D line?
Right.
Okay, next problem. You know?
Okay.
But what I think makes 3D, there is more talk of, is this 3D just another wave, right? Is 3D going to trend up and then trend back down and go away like it's done in the past?
Right.
I think not. I think for a couple of big reasons. Number one is that every time it's trended up in the past, there's been some key component missing. There's been something that hasn't been there. This time, everything's there.
Okay.
From acquisition to delivery to the consumer electronics manufacturers, the entire pipeline is there.
Right. But we have a lot of hurdles for the consumer, obviously, in the glasses, the televisions. I mean, that's not something I guess you get involved in, but what would you want to see there as far as, you know,
well, we
more
have
momentum?
To get involved with it to a certain extent.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
But the thing is that I have two small kids, right? I think about buying those $100 glasses,
Right.
and I think of my 7-year-old, and I'm like, yeah, that's just a bad idea.
Right.
You know, that's just not going to happen.
Also, he's
You
7,
know?
it's probably a bad day for him to watching 3D in the first place, people will say.
Not with our technology. But you know, the thing is that obviously the holy grail is glasses-free 3D.
Right.
You know, that's what everybody wants, including us. It's what everybody wants. I think realistically, that's 3 to 5 years away for it being a wide consumer market. You see a ton of lenticular displays. You see a ton of glasses 3D in point of sale and in short view pieces, right? Things that people look at for a minute or two and then they walk away.
Correct.
There's no long form yet. And also, I mean, lenticular it's all advances of the same technology that's in a Cracker Jack box. You know, it's better, and it obviously looks auto stereo. It obviously looks better, and it's more technologically advanced. But the concepts are the same.
Right.
You know, there hasn't been a fundamentally new concept in glasses-free 3D that is easily scalable to a consumer market.
Right.
But there's a lot of stuff out there right now, and I think it'll happen.
Great. Well, thank you, Louis.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.